Well, let's just do it. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:28 and get rolling with things. So the first order of business for the select board meeting. Does everybody have the agenda? I guess there really isn't much to consider. We're starting a little earlier because we all had a board of abatement hearing that wrapped up as expected. We figured we'd just kind of keep rolling with things, and we have a pretty light agenda. So aside from the items that are on here and how they're laid out, does anybody have any additions or changes that need to be considered?
Should we do James first?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes sense since James is here. So we'll be bumping James up to the 5:30 slot and then wording him an early dismissal if he so chooses. And then we'll pick up our regular administrative stuff if that works for everybody. Okay. Great. Welcome, James.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing well. How are you?
Busy. You guys are as well.
This is kind of the start of just or a continuation of just kind of the check-ins that we start rolling into this time of year with each of the subcommittees and groups, various town officials. And then it sounds like you also have some proposals for consideration, or a proposal for considering how we interact with the VT alert program or procedure, right?
Yeah, so more of a question to start with.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So two pieces that are on the agenda, the web EOC program and VT alert. So web EOC, if you're not familiar, is how towns request help, whether it's physical manpower or supplies of some type from the state's emergency operations center. Is their ticketing system. It's also where the state's emergency operations center will put any updates, whether it's updates to management supplies that they have available, events that are happening around the state that they think are important information for everybody to see. And there's a few other pieces to it, but those are the biggest pieces that would affect us. Currently, only myself and Corey have access to this ticketing system. Jake Aho, who is the emergency management, can't ever remember what the C stands for, but he's the EMC, and he is
coordinator, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. He is in the process of getting access to the web EOC program. So we'll have two people on the emergency management committee, and then we'll also have Tari. However, on the committee, we talked about that we think we should have a couple of one or two more people, just in case somebody is stuck somewhere and can't get to where there's internet access or cell phone and aren't able to put tickets in or have to leave to go deal with something else. So our thought process was Nick from the committee, because he's been on the committee for a long time. He was the emergency management director. And then either somebody from the select board, preferably. Obviously, we would, provided we had more people have access to the system, we would then make some sort of a protocol that says, okay, in the event of emergency, this is the order of who is going to be primarily responsible for filing these tickets and keeping track of stuff. And then be allowed, okay, well, if this person isn't, then this person, so on and so forth. And we'd have a standardized procedure for how that would work. But we wanted to get your guys' take on it before I went ahead and worked with for my emergency management to allow more people to do it. The VT alert piece, Corey has always worked on sending out alerts for that. I worked with Vermont Emergency Management to set us up an official VT alert account So we can go to the back side of BT Alert on a computer, and we can send out our own alerts or however we want. They have a bunch of templates and stuff we can use. We can also edit those templates. We can put like this, logo is the right word. Seal, official town seal. Yes, thank you. On the alert, if we wanted to, obviously you'd only see that if you're opening an email or something. But I'm not sure exactly how you put out alerts in the past. I don't know if you fill out the form and give it to them to put out, or if you have
I
another.
usually have them do it.
Yeah.
Recently Toby Talbot told me that he also has access. And so there's a third person at least.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Yep, so we still have the ability to do it that way and fill out the form and send it to them and they can put it out. Or we can go on to the website. I believe that form was Kari, Keegan and myself. Who can go onto the website side of it and send out alerts. The benefit of that is it's faster to get stuff out instead of having to wait for them to do it themselves.
Yeah, I'd say, I think I have to look back to see, because I'm signed up for a couple of different lists, I guess, to get alerts, but they're generally fairly generic, whether it's incident on 89 or a water main break in Barry or something like that. So I have to open up to see what it is. So I think if setting something up throughout so that we're accessing it directly and we have a little more control over how it appears. I mean, I still think, having the VT alert association helps, but like we can somehow identify it as a callous alert. Like, I think that is helpful for residents who might be signed up for a number of them, for sure.
I think the most recent one I got, it was much more clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was looking to see exactly how it was, but, yeah, I think any effort that gets us closer to that is awesome.
Use it that way.
okay.
At the state, we have a sister program, it's called SOB Alert for state employees, and works exactly the same way, it's built on the same exact platform, but we use it for state office buildings if there's something going on at or around. So I'm very familiar with how this side of the system works. We have a lot of customization options. We can create our own templates for different things, and then obviously we just fill in little pieces of information that would be different. So yes, we can make them much clearer than their basic templates.
Great.
Um,
So James, just to clarify the status, you're already doing that. You don't need anything from us. You're
no, you guys
letting us
already
know,
approved that.
and we think it's great.
No, that's all set to go. We started working on the budget on our meeting on Thursday. Our next meeting is the 16th, and everybody on the committee is confident that we'll have it done that meeting for you guys, so you'll have it plenty of time before I come back to talk about it. We just finished creating a volunteer sign up system. Apparently, before I was on the committee, they had a system via a Google form that kind of fell apart, hadn't really been kept up or anything like that. So we created a whole new form and tracking system using the Microsoft platform. We use Microsoft Forms to fill it all out, and then we're using a SharePoint list to be able to track it all. It's completely ready to go live. Our plan is to work with Barb and Keegan and Sarah Black to put a link to that form on the emergency management section of the town website. And then periodically, I will make posts on Front Porch Forum with a link to it as well. The plan is that once we have people on there, we will follow up with them approximately 6 months or a year or something like that, and say, hey, if you're on this list, do you still want to be on this list? And then on the list, we have the option to move them to active volunteers or non-active. That way, if somebody decides later on they want to volunteer again, they don't have to fill out a new form. We can just move them back over to the active side of the system. So we'll be able to get more resources, hopefully, in the event of an emergency. The one piece of bad news that I bring, the town's local hazard mitigation plan, or LHMP, is due November, excuse me, October. Wow, I wrote it down. You guys just look at my note.
Well, I started off really bad.
Yeah.
Dangerous territory.
October. 2026.
Okay.
Okay.
So it has to be redone every 5 years. Ours was done in 2021. Normally, town will contract with, their local, planning commission, so for us, the Vermont Planning Commission. And they do the vast majority of the updates to it, because there's a lot of, legal aspects to it that people aren't necessarily going to be able to read and understand and update properly. And that's normally paid for with a split grant that comes from FEMA to Vermont Emergency Management, that then they sub-grant to the regional planning commissions. However, last week, Vermont Emergency Management got notice from FEMA that there is no timeline when this grant is going to be available. So Vermont Emergency Management has said we are putting a hold on all sub-granting until further notice. The Regional Planning Commission said that if we would like their help updating ours, they have to start on it this spring to be able to have it done before the due date of October next year. They didn't have a current number for me because they hadn't worked on one in a little while, but they said the last one they worked on, the total cost was almost $11,000. We talked about this on the committee on Thursday. We're going to handle as many of the updates that we can. Obviously avoiding all of the legal aspects of it. But then we'll work with the select board to figure out how we make sure everything else is up to date, whether we work with the town's attorney and see if there's something they can do, or we try to work with the regional planning commission somehow. I realize that's a lot of money. We do have to update this and have it accepted by both Vermont Emergency Management and FEMA if we want to be eligible for FEMA funding in the future. So unfortunately, we don't really have a choice but to update it.
Sure.
Yeah. We were afraid that this was gonna happen with the current state of not just FEMA, but everything.
Yeah.
So that's where we are right now.
My question would be, are there other communities in the area that have the same issue?
I would assume so.
Yeah,
So your 5-year deadline is from whenever you last submitted it. We're not all on the same
Okay.
schedule.
the different cadence for
Yeah.
everybody, I know.
And VM and our regional planning commission, they have some money, but they haven't disclosed how much money they have and if they're going to be using it to help towns update these. And I don't know, they haven't shared how many people are due or coming to due. But I can get more information from them, or try to at least.
Did you say FEMA in the past was paying half and who was paying the other half?
I believe it was an 80-20 split
Okay,
between the grant and the towns.
so the town was 20 and 80% was all from FEMA. There was no state funding?
Technically, it's state funding because it goes from FEMA to Vermont Emergency Management, and then they stop.
Yeah.
But technically, it's from the state.
Yeah, it would seem like it would be good to learn who else is up this next year. Because if there's a bunch of legalese that needs to be updated, it's probably those aspects are probably similar down to town.
Yeah, I was.
Which is why the regional planning commission does it.
Right.
They're I gotta believe that they're gonna be our least expensive option,
Right.
if they do it, they
Yeah.
have familiarity with it. Our attorney there's just no way they're gonna be less expensive, so.
That was my assumption.
I would recommend, getting a quote from them and including the worst case scenario in your budget proposal. Were you thinking this would be reflected in the budget
No.
next year? No,
No, we had not, talked about that yet.
yeah,
We didn't work on the budget as long as I would have liked to on Thursday night.
Yeah.
But it was it's on my notes of things to talk about with the committee.
Yeah.
But I figured I would talk to you guys first since I was gonna be
I
here.
mean, it's gonna be a line item that shows up 1 year only.
Right, exactly.
So everyone will understand it's an exceptional thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And hopefully some grant money will be freed up at some point, but it sounds like we need to budget for the worst.
Yeah, unfortunate. That was, so normally, the state applies for this grant and they usually hear end of August to mid-September. We got a little concerned when we hadn't heard anything yet, so I reached out. And that's when they told me that the last one they had records on was just under 11,000 to do it. They weren't sure what was going on. So it's kind of where we are when it comes to the budget aspect. Obviously, budgets are tight for everybody, and we've been planning to do our best to have a minimal increase. But obviously, this is something we have to figure out for.
Yeah, and we wanna get it done. So it's
Time
approved.
limit, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, I think Charlie thought that you should assume we'll need to go to the CVRPT. Put that in your budget. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I will, that out at our meeting. And I will, reach out to the planning commission and see if they can get it next.
thanks for being on top of that.
Yeah.
No, I am. Sorry, I didn't get my notes, but, yeah, I am uncomfortably familiar with budget. And I was the president of Blueberry Fire for a couple of years, so. I'm not gonna be a push, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's critical to keep our eyes on these types of things, I guess, well. We're here making a plug, you probably saw an email circulate from Barbara about just kind of some. We were calling it kind of contingency, but legacy planning, turnover planning that we're trying to kind of get rolling and organized around, and I think. As we kind of circle back on. While we take the first steps, we're gonna lean on committee chairs to start organizing some of that, and part of it is. Is making a list of these types of things that each committee likely has better line of sight on, and just kind of starting to create some documentation, some very standardized documentation around like. Here's the seasonality of the business that we conduct through the year, and here are the things every year, every 5 years, there's different plans that we manage or assets that we manage. And I imagine just because of the nature of the work that emergency management does, that infrastructure is already kind of in place, but good example of the type of thing that would be good to get on a list.
Absolutely.
For sure. So that's just kind of a direct plug for the work that Barbara's kind of spearheading. That email. We were talking about sending that out to chairs, in the next week or so.
He already got it.
Yeah,
In his
exactly.
role as emergency
Yeah,
management
exactly.
director. So you'll also get it as an emergency management chair for your whole committee,
Yeah.
but as the director, he's already gotten it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was already on my thing, on my,
Yeah,
started for the committee, you never know when somebody's gonna leave or something's gonna happen where they can't be there or so on and so forth. So having a group or somebody to just be able to step into a new role and be able to move forward as easily as possible is super important.
yeah, I think. Whoever comes in first with, how that information is organized, I think could be fairly informative. There's some of the other committee chairs who maybe don't think in that kind of way all the time, or as consistently, so we might tap you sooner than later to just kind of see if maybe there's some institutional direction that we could take, you know, to try to put form to that, because I think another big element of this is kind of standardizing it, because
Yeah,
we may not know who needs to pick up the baton, and like, the easier it is to step in for one organization or another, if all the information is kind of organized in a very similar fashion, that goes a really long way in these types of things, so. Yeah, so we'll take a look at that probably pretty shortly.
all right,
Just,
just remembered I had one.
Yeah, sure.
were you looking for feedback or decision on the web EOC part?
Be back at some point, if we don't.
Okay,
Making a
you're
decision
just-
right this moment,
Heads up on that.
technically speaking, by Vermont, by emergency management's guidelines. Need your guys' permission to give access to other people, the permission has to come from me, not the select board, but. You guys are my bosses, so.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, if
Having
it's
data.
determined that the select board members should, I'd be willing to, and I'm, you know, most of the time at the store, which has a generator and, you know, is sort of a hub of
yeah, leaving you
stuff
much
and
better
emergency
protected.
situation anyway,
Well, and you need someone who is readily available
right,
most of the time,
right.
so that would be
Which is
a great
generally.
match.
It's not hard to get access to it, you simply, have to, if you don't already have an account, you have to sign up for the state's learning management system. And there's a couple of trainings in there that you have to take. It's really all there is to it. I use the system a handful of times, so I may or may not be able to answer questions, but I can help to the best of my ability.
We can chat at some point.
There's a training on how to take the training, so.
If you have any issues with the state's management system, I can definitely help with that. I use it every day, unfortunately. It can be a little clunky sometimes. The last thing I have is that the committee finalized moving everything out of the Google Drive to Microsoft SharePoint. So we're no longer using the Google Drive, we're now using the Microsoft to pull all of our stuff. Which we also moved from Zoom to Microsoft Teams. Calendar committee was using Nick's personal Zoom account, which is a problem, unless Nick leaves. Or the meeting link expires and isn't available. Which did happen to us unfortunately at one point. But we have fully migrated over. We're all set in the process too.
Thank you for doing that. You know, these are resources that the town has committed revenue to, so you know, it behooves us to make use of them as fully as possible. I think some other committees are likely struggling with making that that transition as comprehensively. It might be something that we touch base on like offline about, because I just to get ahead of external participants with, you know, access to SharePoint and Teams and that sort of thing. So, you know, if there's some learning there that you guys have gone through, or troubleshooting specifically, there's a lot of troubleshooting, to get some of those documented so that maybe we can hand those off or hand those instructions off to some of the other committee chairs. I'm thinking like DRB and planning, I think is still heavily using Google resources for coordinating that kind of thing. So it'd be nice to start pushing folks over to the Microsoft platform.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
The biggest headache, where you can expect, came from external users.
Yeah.
Trying to get access to the SharePoint stuff. If anybody has a Calais Vermont.gov account, though, it's very easy. But yeah, no,
Well, that's.
no, man, no. But, yes, you guys with having Cal's Vermont.gov account all have access to the emergency management SharePoint. And I'm happy to help, people get access to it, find it, migrate to it. And the migration does take a little bit of time to go from Google to the SharePoint, but I'm happy to help whoever needs help.
Okay, great, thanks, James. We'll try to offer that out very diplomatically and prudently, so we can turn into default IT, but it is, that I think would be huge for us as a community. Any other input that you need from us at this point?
Not that I can think of at the moment. Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? Comments? Thank you.
Just
thank you.
appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, you've hit the ground running, no surprise, but it's, tremendous. Really appreciate the work.
No, I get it, and I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we didn't have any floods this summer, so.
Yeah.
We did. We have the opposite problem.
Yeah, we do indeed.
Oh, well.
Is that in your purview, water?
No, sort of.
See?
I am ice water rescue technician certified, but we don't have any ice at the moment. The State Emergency Operations Center is, partially activated because of drought conditions across the state. So essentially all that means is they're available to take tickets and give out resources to a certain extent if they're needed. I'm working on getting a list of what supplies I actually have available in case we do need them. But
So fires or wells running dry or what?
so the biggest thing that they would be helping with would be the water aspect. The fire aspect would be, Agency Natural Resource actually has a wildfire division. They're not very big. I think there's 50 of them in that particular division. And they can be requested by fire departments on an as needed basis. But like I said, I reached out to see exactly what supplies or assistance they are currently able to provide. Once I have it, I will make sure you guys are also aware of what that is.
Thank you.
We did get a call today, Barbara took it from the Worcester clerk asking about spring availability in Calais. Asking on behalf of somebody in Worcester, so
Yeah,
it's starting to happen.
yeah. No, it's it is very dry everywhere you go. It's bad. Until you get over to the other side of the mountain range. I had to go to Middlebury last week and teach. And I went up over the Active. It's just like it is here. There's color everywhere. It's practically peak foliage. Get into Middlebury and everything is green. Like almost nothing has started to change over there.
Well, it's interesting that, because I just went yesterday, arrived up to, like, up towards Lindenville, and it was green up there. I, like, earlier in the season, was paying attention to weather patterns and like Middlebury and the Lindenville, Johnson areas were getting hammered with storms later into the summer than we were. I wonder if it had some of that like lingering. I mean, they had some torrential rains like well into June before it stopped raining here, but
Yeah,
it's pretty stark difference. It was very green and lush, and the colors were more robust just on the other side of the standard mountain road.
no, if you watched a lot of the rain that came up after June, it would hit the spine of the Green Mountains and wouldn't come over. It would just ride it up. And
Yeah.
so, to my knowledge, we don't currently have water problems. We don't have anybody in town who does that I've heard. Oh, well, okay. See, I was as well as I know. Yeah,
Can't be asking you to conserve water in the fire.
yes, I did.
And there's another one coming.
I can promise you, I already do mine.
I.
No, I understand how, I was following, so.
Well, I guess to that end, it'd be nice to know that like, if we need to communicate. Well, once you have better insight, I think from the state about what resources could be available, I don't think that they'd be not different than some of the adjoining communities, but if we could start. Collecting lists or at least posting notice that if people are having well issues, once we have a better idea what resources might be available from the state, if we need to mobilize. Something, I guess let us know when that would make sense to do.
Yes.
And then we could solicit. Communications from anybody who might be suffering from a really acute need.
Yeah, I will, definitely make sure you guys know what they have available and what their continued status is, and I don't know.
Thanks, James, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll circle back to our 5:30 items, which. Previously, we bumped the reports up, to that portion, Cause we like shaking things up. So, Tegan, do you wanna chime in with the town clerk report?
Sure, now that Carly and Barbara have been back in the office, I've had a little more time, I've been working on. We have a lot of maps that they're not logged in any sort of way that is, they're not logged in any sort of way that's accessible. If someone comes in and says, hey, do you have this map that I think exists from 1982? They're all just in a pile. So I am trying to kind of organize those and make a list of those so that people can find them based on parcel ID or who the previous owner was, because they don't usually have a lot of details. So I was working on that. I also found a box, it's been in there, it says Curtis Pond Dam stuff. It's a big banker's box. I had never opened it, but I did, and it's a lot of things from 2000 to 2013, maybe, in the quest to repair the dam. Some of it is 6 copies of the same document. It's not in order. It's kind of a mess, but I reached out to the Dam Association and I said, I would love to have this as a resource for people. However, does anyone who knows more about it want to sort of weed through and organize? And Marge told me, actually, they have been looking to do something like this and they will talk about it. So I will keep you posted on what that's gonna turn into. It'd be nice if that was something that was easy to sort of flip through and see the whole history of where we started and how we got here. And it's a wild story and I'm always amazed by how often it appears in minutes or in an email or in something like, oh, we're working on the dam, we're gonna get it done this year. And how many times that was actually said before it got done. So kudos to those who got it done, because it took a long time. We also, I was working on the website a little bit. Willow Farrell came in and we were looking at zoning and just how all the permitting is just kind of a slew of permits and a list, and you have to know what you're doing to get in there, and they would like to make it more user friendly. So Sarah Black and I are gonna go in and try and take Willow's vision and Toby participated in John McCullough too, in making it something that's easier for a lay person to go in and say, I wanna do this project. Oh, I need these things. This is the steps I need to take. So that is out there.
That would definitely be an improvement.
I think it will be, yeah, I'm excited about that. The other thing is the Career Center election is coming November 4th. So as soon as we get ballots for that, which should be any time now, you'll start to see me posting more about that on Front Porch Forum, and absentee ballots will be going out and we'll start sort of that timeline of things. It should be a really simple election because it's one election with one ballot with one question. So from a town office perspective, it's very simple. From a greater political financial question, it's a loaded topic, but for us, it should be a pretty straightforward election.
In person only.
No, you'll be able to request an absentee ballot. They won't all be automatically mailed, but anyone can request one to be mailed or can come in early and vote whatever is most convenient. The ordinance advisory committee is rolling along. It's not an easy topic to do the curb cut ordinance, but I feel like we're making some headway now. It took a long time to get all the backstory and to sort of wrap our heads around the project. Barbara asked me the other day if we thought we needed any new members, and I said, I don't know that we need new members, but I also think getting someone up to speed would take so much time that right now it's better for us just to keep our heads down and do it. And then we can decide on the other side if we need new members for other ordinances. If you all have different feelings, you're obviously welcome to discuss, but I just thought I'd let you know that that had been something for us and we talked about. Last thing is something I brought to Jordan and Jamie this week is that the East Calais Fire District is curious about what it would look like if it was partially under the umbrella of the town. They're self-sufficient, they're in the black, they're doing really well, but as far as belt tightening, to be able to use the Nimerick software instead of getting their own QuickBooks subscription, to be able to be under the VLCT membership instead of having our own VLCT membership. Just little things like that, we think it would be a more efficient use of our funds to do everything all together. So I am researching and looking at other towns that do have that and seeing what that looks like. How resources get utilized, how the town treasurer would be utilized, or whether we would still use our current treasurer, how all that looks. So I will have more to bring you down the line. I'm also looking into why I think it used to be under the town insurance and now it's not, and that happened before my time, so I'm trying to find out why that happened. Yeah, so that's it.
Thanks, Tegan. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that it's certainly worth taking a look at. So I think the kind of better view we can have on, you know, where there are overlaps and I guess likely like monetizing like what the savings could be for the residents and what the cost would be for the town, just kind of the shakeout. What all of that looks like would make it easier to consider a proposal for sure. But it does seem like there's a lot of redundant need for certain services that wouldn't necessarily add a lot of burden to the town's, you know, administrative functions already. So, yeah, thanks for raising that. Back a step to the organization of the permitting items, I wonder as like an earmark, this is just to help lock it into my brain, but we're gonna be meeting with RB Tech for like an annual check-in on our needs and data infrastructure. One of the like lingering pieces for me would be trying to figure out, like, I think we're closer now that we have the Microsoft platform for like stabilizing the repositories for where we keep certain forms and documents, and like how far away are we from potentially being able to put like live links and PDFs and stuff like that, where living documents can be linked to back and forth. And I mean, I know that there's challenges for folks who are offline and using, you know, PDFs and all that sort of thing, but like if folks are reading the regs online and it's referencing a particular permit, having a live link to that permit or form, I think would be awesome, but it's not worth doing unless it can be maintained sustainably, and in a way that doesn't just generate loads of different iterations of things as they change. So I think they should be positioned to give a decent answer to like, what would we need to do to facilitate that in a sustainable way? I don't know, I'll make a note if you can make a note if I don't remember it. Yeah, that was the idea, sure. And that was gonna be on-prem, right? Is Ruben coming to us or are we going to?
They sent it to us as a team meeting,
Oh, okay, so remote, okay,
but we'll all be at the office anyway, so
okay,
you can just do it.
that sounds good, perfect. Thank you for staying on top of what we're doing. Great, should we dip into the financial report?
Sure, yeah, should be quick, just so this is a report for the end of August through 2 months of the fiscal year, taxes have just started coming in. So not much to report on the revenue side, it'll be very different in a month when I report on September, but on the expense side, there are a few areas where we're high or at budget. Those are mostly timing issues. There's a couple where we're over budget. The sand is the one I reported on before that we're just decided to go over budget on that to make up for, all we used in the spring. And then I did detect there's some error in the budget somewhere that shows a negative net amount on the bottom line for general government. So I have to dig into that, see where that's coming from. It's $3,000 or so. So I'll research that and report back next time on that. But other than that, no real concerns. It's just still very early in the year.
Thanks, Karen. Does anybody have any questions about the financial report? Thanks. Town admin
Yep.
report?
Yep, so I wanted to thank Barbara especially for all the work she's done on processing tax payments. Tegan's done a lot too. Surprising how many questions you get, or so, and there's a theme to these questions, but then there'll be these curveballs. So you just have to dig in and do a lot of research and just help people along. So it's been push, but you know, we're pretty much done with payment number 1, and so we're well on our way, which is good. And let's see, the Kent Hill Road project completed. We're still waiting on the final bill for that. We are expecting another change order because of the amount of material that had to be taken out and then put back in was larger than had been estimated in the specs. So we'll see what that's like when it comes in. Toby has already asked the state, because they're funding this project with a grant, seeing if there's additional grant money that's available. He said that sometime is the case, so we haven't heard back about that yet.
Well, it turned out great.
Yeah, they did a very nice job and they got it done on that Friday, you know.
I was wondering if you had to do something.
Yeah, I know. It's not your secret.
Well, they wanted us to be happy, you
Yeah.
know,
Good.
you know, and there were some communication issues on their team.
Yeah,
You know, what I'd been told one thing, and then when I talked to the foreman on the job, he's like, "Oh no, there's no way." So I went back, you know, it's just it wasn't that unusual, I don't think. So County Road is set to be repaved on Wednesday and Thursday. So I'll send out another notice tomorrow. We do have a plan for restriping, both the fog lines and the center lines. So that's good. And then we're gonna be below budget, even with the yellow stripes, we're gonna be below budget.
Nice.
For the year. And then the new garage generator's been installed. We do need to wait several weeks for the propane tanks to be installed, but that project's on its way. And the financial audit is all but complete, which I was really surprised that they got it done so quickly. No negative findings this year, which was a relief. And I'll let you know when they're ready to present the final. It might be earlier than we had planned, but sometime in October, November. So that was that. I can do the East Calais dam removal, but any other questions? We're going to that. So I spoke with Michelle Braun of Friends of Winooski about the dam removal. She's been working on the question of what happens with the land that's exposed when the dam is removed. That was a big question at the first meeting we had with the public, with the landowners, wanting to know what's the deal. So she met with the general counsel for Agency of Natural Resources, and they said, we don't know. They said there's case laws in both directions. In one case, the land stayed with the state because the current situation is those are navigable, I can't say that word, waters, and the state owns them. So in one case, the state retained ownership of the land that had been underneath. In the other case, it reverted to the abutting landowners. And the state attorney said that they don't think it's worth resolving other than asking the legislature to develop a law that'll make it consistently applied going forward. So in the meantime, this project is going to continue moving forward. And what Michelle asked is if the town can plan to have a meeting with the 7 landowners that are affected by this sometime this winter and have a discussion about what do folks want? Or, you know, what are you looking for in terms of the ownership or how that's gonna be managed, long term? And maybe, there will be consensus that can emerge from that and we can just go forward. And, you know, the scenarios I think would be that the town somehow owns that land or that the landowners own it. And, understanding that you know, if somehow the legislature decides first, that our decision might be preempted. But I think it's most likely that whatever we decide as a group will be the way that it ends up being. So she said that the engineers will have enough information to have a coherent conversation sometime this winter, like in February is what she's thinking. Because they can model exactly how much land is exposed in each of those different parcels. And then there's also limitations or conditions in the permit about how the, you know, land needs to be planted, maintained. So that's all information that needs to be compiled and presented at that meeting.
My question about that meeting, when I read your memo, and maybe I missed it, was who's running that meeting? Is it like for us to be there to listen? Or?
I think actually the town is calling the meeting and so the select board sort of the host of the meeting.
Okay.
We can have Michelle and the engineers there to sort of explain the situation and answer questions, but really the purpose is to try to generate some consensus around what happens with that land. And so it's really an agreement between the town and the owner. So select board is a key stakeholder in that.
Right, so then the question I have is, at what point do we have the information or the consideration of what would be the best thing for the town? Like, sitting here right now, I don't know what the best, you know, scenario would be.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's really, to me, I'd want to hear what each of those landowners has to say, like what their interests are. If they own it, I think there's a lot of upside for the town and that basically there's a little more tax base and no maintenance for considerations. But they may not want that. They may, I think some landowners would prefer not to, as long as it's maintained in the way that they're hoping. So I just don't know how to answer that.
And does Michelle really have no position on this?
That's right.
I mean, it's kind of her job.
Well, her job is to remove the dam,
Yeah.
right? So what happens
And
after that?
I've
needs to be done for the project.
working with her on a couple of other
Yeah.
projects, you know, I think that she has a pretty diplomatic and prudent approach to these types of things, and this falls into quite literally kind of a grayish green area, and, I think from like an ecological maintenance standpoint, you know, she and the Friends of Winooski and the engineers have a position that leans towards wanting whatever happens to be consistent, because they're going to be putting resources into replanting and for an interim period managing that the restoration project. So in another project, like they've had to enter into kind of like a land access and maintenance like agreement with the private property owner. So from their perspective, I would think that they would see a certain amount of efficiency in either the state or the town being, you know, a sole owner or right holder for that, because that makes entering into an agreement like that a little bit more efficient from their perspective.
In
And
the short term,
in the short term,
yeah,
yeah,
but that's what
yeah,
The project, conditions require the long-term maintenance of the,
for
like,
for-
habitat stuff.
I think it depends on how it's being funded, I can speak to the
I think it's a
project that we're
10-year
involved,
I think it's much like those maintenance agreements that we did for these Calais projects, they're 10 years.
and the one that I entered in was 30 years.
Wow.
30 years?
Yeah, and so, it's medium term. That they're engaged, I think that the amount of activity definitely tapers way off, after the
Correct.
10-year mark, and like the site has stabilized, but they mostly just wanna make sure that after whatever that period of time, once the site is stabilized, that work is then not undone for ecological reasons, but also I imagine because there's funding that says your use of land is gonna be this way.
Right.
And that could put them in a financially liable situation relative to that. So, I wonder, getting back to kind of the logistics, I think it would be nice to work through some of that initial dialogue with landowners to get a better expectation, a better idea of what the expectations are more informally. And I wonder, I think it's gonna be hard to have like meaningful conversation until that February date when there's more information, but I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to in the next, month or so to delegate like a liaison of the select board to call an initial meeting with like the town and liaison of the select board to start working through some of that and just capturing what those expectations and concerns are, so that I think we can go into a like full select board meeting or a community meeting or something like that with those
Yeah.
individuals
As
as
prepared
prepared
as
as possible with like a recommendation or proposal, or let that be informed by what the friends come back with. If that makes sense, so food for thought, I guess, if
Yeah.
anybody feels particularly passionate about it, but.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it'd be a good opportunity just to give people an update, like, here's where this is, because they haven't heard for a little bit.
Yeah,
They're probably wondering. So,
well, let's make a
So-
decision on that next meeting or something.
okay, well, I could just take it on.
If you, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about it and I have opinions about it, but.
Okay, or we could split it if you
Yeah,
like.
that's whatever's efficient. I don't wanna get in the way of it either, so, just.
Sorry, if you need help with that, I can also.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be great. I'll get the list. You probably already know it, but I'll go get the list of who the 7 are.
well, let's plan on codifying that then next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Any other items from the memo you wanna touch on, Kari?
No,
I think that's all of them.
yeah.
All right. Great. So we were somewhere in the neighborhood of public comment, pretty light brew tonight. Anybody, it's just Mr. Delcor on Zoom. Does anybody have any comments as a member of the public, I guess, on items that aren't on the agenda?
I did one thought, you guys didn't put in a dry hydrant, right, when you did the rebuilt the maple corners and there? I just,
On Curtis Pond,
yeah,
there is a hydrant the other side of the dock
oh,
that has been there for years and was not. Yeah, it's like down in the bushes, it's hard, you wouldn't see it unless you were looking for it.
yeah, there.
But it's there and it was not disturbed during construction, because it was the far side of the house.
I wasn't aware there wasn't dry hydrant there, so that's good enough. And,
Thank you.
We have a resident that's interested in pursuing a dry hydrant on Bliss Pond. And I need to check in with her and see if she's moved forward with that. She just, both of the fire departments were very interested in that. They thought that was a great idea, and she was gonna speak with the landowner about it, so.
yeah, especially with the drier and drier weather.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll wait to see a proposal for that then. moving on to budget conversations, yeah.
So, next up is we're doing the town clerk, town administrator, and select board portions. I'd say the biggest, headline in this is, based on the conversations with the office staff, we think that, we're proposing to reduce the assistant town clerk hours by half, going from 24 to 12 per week on average, and while maintaining the assistant treasurer hours and select board administrative hours. And we think we can do this and not reduce services at all. It's a pretty reasonable plan for that, and it will save money on wages and benefits and meet Barbara's needs. And so basically what she would be doing is continuing to coordinate with all the boards and commissions and committees and officials. She would do a certain amount of reception, she would do tax payment processing, the tax bill mailing. Barbara's willing to be flexible, of course. And we can try it out this year. We don't have to wait until fiscal 27 to do this. We'll have a lot more information in a few months. And we're gonna plan on checking in regularly, just to see how this is going. And most importantly, maybe, is we retain all of Barbara's institutional knowledge, right? You know, so, and, you know, and,
What's
so, so, you know, from my perspective, it's sort of win-win-win. But so that's in this, draft budget in terms of those reduced hours. I haven't done the benefits side yet. That'll be in a future, draft, but you'll see some real savings there in terms of not having medical insurance buyout and some of the other benefits.
Just don't
Go ahead.
get, see that Tegan has already absorbed a lot of what I used to do. And she continues to offer to absorb other things that I'm giving up in order to reduce my hours. So when you guys do look at salaries, just remember that when you're thinking about Tegan.
Thank you, Barbara.
Hmm.
And thank you, Tegan.
Well, thank you, team. I mean, we are blessed. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation that we all had, just working through this and figuring out what was gonna work best for everyone.
And does and you're happy, Barbara, right? All right. So Barbara, is this positive for you?
This is working out really well for me. This is good. So I'm really reducing my hours, doing more from home, which was absolutely fine. And keeping, we started the conversation by me asking Tegan and Kari, what support do I provide to you guys, to the town that's the most valuable, the most important to you? And so they itemized exactly what they wanted me to continue doing, and I'm more than happy to do that, and everything else I'm giving up. And Tegan's figured it up so far, so as long as she can sustain that.
Well, sustaining that, I guess, is my primary concern. And while I don't doubt that this immediate team has the capacity and skills to do that, there are two things that I think stand out for me. One is that who knows what the wind blows in, and you know, Barbara, I know you do a ton of interpersonal interaction with the community, and I also know that those are the types of things that can be very disruptive to the day. So I appreciate that there's kind of a plan to kind of continually check in from both sides. So, you know, so that, you know, to the extent that Tegan or Kari feel like their days are being disrupted too much, that we might have to circle back and revisit, you know, how to solve that problem, whether it's bringing those hours back in or figuring something else out. I appreciate the foresight there. I guess the other part is that I think it's really exciting that you know, Tegan's picking up some of these things and getting to know a lot of these systems, and Kari as well. Absorbing that institutional knowledge that Barbara has, but I guess makes me ask the question that we should probably be like looking at like roles and response or job descriptions a little bit more, just again, or just revisiting them to make sure that we're capturing what everybody's
Yeah.
doing in a meaningful way, and probably revisiting, not like blow up the org chart, but like make sure that we're allocating for things in the right buckets. So that should we need to consider hiring somebody else or adding a part-time position or whatever we want to do, that we have a plan for that in advance of that, and we're not finding ourselves in an unsustainable situation and having to spin up a plan, but might be like a little
Yeah.
mini task force there to just kind of have some meetings around that to make sure that.
Well, I think that fits in really well with this continuity planning that we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
And I feel like, I mean, this is a transition that started a couple years ago, right? And I feel like especially this last year, just the way that it's progressed, I think we have a much better understanding of what those roles and responsibilities are now and how they can be shifted. I just have a lot more confidence in that now than I did a year ago. Just different people.
And we've all agreed that we're gonna review this, how it's going, with maybe reducing the amount of hours even more. We're gonna review it every couple of months, and we've all promised to be honest with each other with feedback about how it's going. I think the biggest impact, I think, for the two of them will be not so that I won't be there as often to provide reception duties. I won't be answering the phones, but a few hours a week, or dealing with the walk-ins. That's gonna be the biggest impact. And so they'll have to be honest about whether or not that's gotten too difficult for them, in addition to the work they're doing at their desk. So they'll both speak up.
Another aspect I think that matters is that for the last 5 to 6 years, there's just been a lot of change. Like it went from just Donna to Donna and Judy to Judy and Sandra and Barbara to the pandemic. And no Sandra to, like, it's just been a lot.
10 years, Tegan.
I didn't say
5 years, that's like, no, that's been 10 years.
I think 5 years of a lot of change,
Yeah.
10 years of like
Yeah.
consistent reorganization of what is happening in the town. And I think it's been a while since we had the same people in the same positions with that amount of knowledge, just sort of cruising along. It's been a while since we've gotten to do that. And I think that is reflected in how well it's going right now, and how comfortable we are with this transition. But again, if it turns out that it's not working well, we'll obviously be honest about it. I just think we're all in really good places in our roles and in how we can lean on each other as needed when things, pop up. It just seems to be a really good situation.
Well, I'll raise a point, Tegan, and maybe put you on the spot a little bit on this one, but like, I think, again, this isn't criticism by any stretch of imagination, because I do think that we have like really great players in these roles and who have skills that really serve the town super well. And that puts a lot of confidence in the select board, but like, why I think it's really important that we make sure that we like zero in on what those things are, the town clerk has a very specific role statutorily. But I think in any private organizations, and occasionally like at a municipal level, like roles grow relative to the people who are in them. But what we need to be careful of, I think, as a community is that because it's an elected position, that like, while we might have a role in compensation that is designed for one particular person or a response to one particular person's aptitudes, that we don't put ourselves into a liable position where there's a contested, election, and then you have somebody in that role who can't do those things at all, but might have won an election. And now we have a double a problem. But I think that these are all good problems to have at the moment, to be thinking about people's skills and capacities beyond what we currently have on.
That's a good point, and I hadn't really thought about it, and I'm not advocating for this, but that is an argument for having the clerk be an appointed position. You have a little more control over the job description.
Mhm.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the logistics are for, I imagine that would have to be.
It's a charter change, isn't it?
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, something.
big controversy in Calais, we've gone here and did a new.
Keep electing Tia, that's all.
Good either way, but in the first community, people tend to hold on to their elected position as long as they can, because once they are appointed, then you all become my bosses more than the voters being my bosses.
For sure.
And it's a different, you have to make decisions in a different way, and I would have to come to ask you for permission in a way that I don't have to ask the voters for permission for certain things. Not that like I'm hiding anything, but that's sort of, there have been issues with not so great select boards and clerks being unable to do their jobs the way they know they should be doing them because of. Select
If you
board.
go down
Yeah.
Right, and I was looking at it from the other way, you know, I think that I believe strongly that people should be compensated for the work that they do and, you know, and in a way that keeps them motivated and engaged, in the role that they play, even if their roles and responsibility exceed what's just on a piece of paper for that town clerk position, and
Yeah.
so, what would make me, I guess, nervous would be that like you approve a compensation for somebody relative to their skills and what they're delivering for the town, and then you get to this point where that generates other interest, and you might have contested elections, and now you could theoretically see a situation where it's like, oh, wait a minute, like this is now a very different reality.
Well, are you required to spend the budgeted amount on for?
I don't know.
Or did you advertise?
I don't know.
Yeah, whether it's a range or something like that, that it's not required, I don't know.
I would assume you wouldn't, that would make, like, if you hired a new courier or a new lead who came in not knowing anything, I would assume you wouldn't have to pay them exactly what you had
Right.
job budgeted, the same way we don't have to
Start.
max out our office supply category.
Right.
Right.
It feels like a gray area to me. In the school district, those elected positions have their own line item, their own article that gets voted on, right? For
Less money.
for the salary, yeah.
And we
Each
don't
year.
do that with the,
Yeah, it always struck me as odd that the select board is essentially setting the compensation for an elected position. You don't control, but
That's just our little bit of control that we do.
yeah. Anyway,
Well, let's
anyway.
not get too far into the
Yeah.
weeds.
we like what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
you need to exit, Barbara? Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks, Barbara.
So, otherwise, I would say most of these parts of the budget are pretty straightforward. There's a couple places where expenses going up, couple contracts, the election, there's gonna be more elections next year. But generally, I think it's pretty straightforward. Compared to the highway budget.
I just had one question on the, you had an item, professional fees?
Yeah.
What is that about?
Last year it was secure shred and some.
Last year was what, I'm sorry?
Secure shred, we had to get a bunch of shredding done.
Okay.
That sort of varies, but it's that sort of like, if we need someone to come in to do something like that. Sort of.
There's very little that goes into, that's why it's down to $500 next year.
I mean,
The actual, in 25 was a negative. And that had to do with those paychecks of yours that, we reissued. Cause those were for webmaster services, right? At one point, that webmaster was getting booked as professional fees, but that's not the case anymore. I think about half the time when Artie does sound for town clerk, it goes into that category, so it's just not a very well-used category.
Okay, it's another fun thing we're learning is as the Sandra in and out and then Nimric in and out and now Kari, and we're finding everybody kind of had a different idea about where certain budget items should go, and we're trying to
Some of
be
it, yeah.
consistent now from year to year.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other specific questions like that?
No.
Or more general?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, the 4% wage increase for the town administrator is a placeholder.
Yeah, we thought we'd have a little more discussion about that before coming up with a more concrete proposal.
Yeah.
I don't think Carly and I have terribly strong feelings about the town office and town hall, reserve fund budgets. We figured those numbers would be moved around as you all needed to later on. The technology fund is assuming we are continuing to replace computers as our VTech recommends. That's what that fund is gonna be maintained for.
Big jump in the IT support.
So, and Carly asked me about this, so IT support is where we've been putting certain line items from our
Oh,
VTech's bill. They send 2 bills every month. One of them has all of our Microsoft stuff on it. One of it has other things that they do to maintain our system, and then one has all the calls that we make. And so we end up putting it under 4 different line items, so I have to go through all of them and then budget them out. And the not Microsoft subscriptions and things we apply to stay, like for security, cybersecurity purposes, and just them keeping an eye on everything, that's the number that has gone up. As we increasingly move to the cloud.
We can try to get some more clarification.
Yeah, we're gonna talk with
On
Yeah,
the 30th.
yeah, that'd be helpful. I mean, I think it's. At a minimum, we should be trying to make sure that we're putting those things in buckets that are trackable from year to year, and so that, you know, we have a good sense of like what's being spent on IT, their services versus subscription services for IT
Licenses.
infrastructure and licenses and that sort of thing, and then I guess their support tickets.
And if you want, I can send you the last couple invoices, because they have all the, or we have them in the office, they have all the tickets on there. So
Yeah,
you can really see all their itemized stuff, they're very clear, and they're billing what money is going where.
okay,
And there's a separate line for software licenses I have in here.
Yep,
So.
yep.
yeah.
Is the increase in generator maintenance, that includes the new town hall one or the new?
No, town.
No, because that's in the highway.
Right.
Sense.
I guess one of the things that we could talk about would be trying to catch, I think originally this year we were thinking about proposing that like the select board members go down, or see if anybody would want to elect to go down in subscription level for the software, which would be a pretty significant meaningful savings, I think. Now that we've given everybody time to kind of breathe with the resources, and initially we included select board and a few other members or officers with full licenses, so that if you wanted to use the on computer based Word and that sort of thing, you could, but like the web-based versions of Word are pretty similar. So we could downgrade those licenses if folks are making full use of the Microsoft resources. Initially, when we were introducing these a couple of years ago, I was thinking that, you know, for one, it's a nice thing to facilitate other people who may not just have those resources through their work or what have you, to have the resources available, so that they can interact at their fullest capacity. But I think I could probably live without it, and I think it's.
You're talking about Office?
Yeah, Office, it would roll back the Office suite to just being web-based, which I think about cuts the price in half.
Yeah, I think it's like 25 to 112 or something along those lines.
Yeah, monthly per user,
Yeah, no,
so.
Given James's comment, another question is, do we want to move entirely to Teams and stop paying for Zoom? That's a.
I think that that's a fair question too. I don't use those types of resources as much myself, to know whether or not I want to go on pushing everybody over to Teams, and then, all the nuance that comes with, you know, the, third-party members of committees trying to interact with it.
It's becoming more and more
Right,
It's
I
becoming.
think
a norm.
that's my sense is, a couple years ago, it would have been unpopular, but
Yeah.
maybe not so much now.
Yeah, I think they've made a lot of improvements too, knowing that like. Yeah, that they're trying to put more pressure on Zoom, so I think if we can get away with it, it makes a lot of sense.
so can people get on to Teams with just the web-based, the lower level that you were talking about?
You have the web-based for sure, yeah. Teams is almost exclusively, I think, web-based at this point. I don't even think that they support the desktop platform.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and so is SharePoint, so. As long as, you know, we have kind of a clear, like, procedural process for providing committee members like access to it, and community members, I guess.
That's the key.
to it. That's gonna be the key part to making sure that something like that's successful.
Well, we re-up for Zoom in April, so
What's the
Okay.
cost? Per year?
Zoom is $318 a year. For the two accounts.
Yeah,
That's not too bad.
okay.
The other part I think that might be interesting about like downgrading hours, it would be to afford a budget to. Add additional licenses to some of the subcommittees that may want to use them, so. We've made a handful of them ad hoc available, when. Committee chairs feel like they can run with that resource and take advantage of it, but it would be nice if we kind of freed up a little bit of. Some funding for that kind of a net wash to
Yeah.
make more of the committees.
I mean, I would definitely want, if I were working on the town plan, I would want to have a full license, for example.
Yeah.
Or, you know, building budget, all those things, but that's not where we're, I'm not seeing that as part of what we do regularly. It's happening in the office,
Not for me.
yeah.
It's pretty easy for me to reassign something's permission between one of my accounts and the other. So ruminate on that, and we'll try to get some more information on what that would look like, I guess, from
I
my,
mean, that's
another one. for
a discussion topic as the committees come through here this fall, just
Yeah.
asking what their technology needs.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Does anybody have any other questions about the initial draft of the select board and office budgets? No,
Thank you for putting.
thanks for putting that together. Notes are all
You bet.
good.
So next up will be the listers, the zoning administrator, the delinquent tax collector, and the DRB.
Okay,
And then,
they don't need any money.
not much, but a little, and then on the October 27th, we have the library, the emergency management committee, the planning commission, and the SWIM. Yeah, so we're getting into it now.
Yeah.
I have memory fees going up.
You know,
I find that uncomfortable. That we don't get to shop around our NEMRIC services all like, well, and then, you know, their fees continue to steadily march upward.
yeah, I don't have a good answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, I can dig into it a little bit and. My sense is it's the monthly bank reconciliation is costing us a little more now that. Wendy Wilton's not doing it, you know, they have somebody else on staff, I think it might take them longer. You know, Wendy was our treasurer for a period of time, I don't know how much that really matters, but.
Yeah. Sorry, that was just a grave. That was mostly a grave.
You know, well, one thing was we are cloud-based, which is, I find to be tremendously helpful. I can do this from anywhere, the archiving anywhere, and Sandra can as well. So, that's a pretty modest fee, but that's.
But that was something
Small
that they were
expansion.
pushing us to do anywhere, or didn't we have to make that, we made it a little early, but like they were basically saying. You might as well do it now, otherwise we're gonna make you, but then also it'd be more expensive.
It was really the reappraisal that, so that they could access it here. Yeah, but yeah, they were pushing it.
Alright. Well, we'll, that to it for now and pick it up again.
I will say they're very responsive, like when we call with
Yeah.
questions, they are on it better than customer service with most things we call in the
Yeah.
office for customer
I,
service.
I feel like that, I don't have a problem with their support.
Yeah.
And I think we get pretty good value, actually. I think they operate much like a nonprofit. From what I can tell.
And we don't get charged more if we call them, so I'm always on the listers, if you have a problem and you're not sure if it's RV Tech or Nemrick, please call Nemrick first.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then-
But, you know, the COTS contract is quite a hefty increase on a percentage
It
basis.
is, yeah, and a lot of clerks have been raving about that, that they're just really good.
Really?
What is
Yeah.
it, That's how we have all our land records online. So it's available to anyone to access it, including attorneys and real estate
I
agents.
know, it did go way up.
It did go way up. They were purchased by,
They're not.
First order of business, right? Hire all the employees. Good Lord.
some clerks have had some luck negotiating, so maybe that's staff next time I talk to their.
Well, there again, I mean, I think that like the COTS, the NEMRIC contracts, like these are issues that I feel like really, we don't have a lot of opportunity to shop things like this around. They're so integral into how we interact with so many different agencies, et cetera, et cetera. So like those contracts, I feel like should be negotiated on a regional basis, like where more people can push harder, instead of kind of doing it. So.
The other thing is, we're the only state that doesn't do e-recording of land records. Right now, if someone wants something recorded in land records, they have to send me a paper copy, and I scan it, and I do all the things. In any other state, an attorney can email a deed and a PTTR, or not email, but through the appropriate portal channel, send a deed and a PTTR and the payment, and the clerk can upload it to their land records and do whatever, and we are told at every conference that that's coming as fast as they can make it work, so having really good software and really good programming for all these things is an important thing to take that step. That's a really tricky bit that you don't want to mess up.
All right. Again, thank you, everyone. Moving to the administrative items, which was pushed to the end of this meeting. We have the approval of the minutes. Those were posted to the share drive. Is everybody able to read those?
Yes.
The only note that I had on the minutes was just noting a time to that we exited executive session, which was right before adjourning. So we have the motion that was accurately captured. I think it's just for the public, it's nice to have a timestamp there on when we came out and an adjournment. So if we could.
Just add like a minute.
I would.
Yeah, we didn't linger.
Yeah, we adjourned.
Thanks. Yeah, you do that.
8:05.
Yeah, 8:05 or 8:04 or something like that would be perfect. Thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion to accept the minutes with that amendment or adjustment?
So moved.
In a second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. And then the next and last one is board orders. Those are also posted to the share drive. Hopefully everybody's had time to review those. Does anybody have any questions about the orders? So, anybody have any comments? I think they're pretty straightforward.
There was just that one large one,
Large
to
one for-
GM Bowen for the Martin Road culvert, which we hope to get reimbursed. A FEMA form.
Yeah.
All those in favor, or I guess I got a motion to accept and sign the board orders as posted to the Shade Drive.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And that'll bring us to 7:05, which our agenda item there is to talk about the labor negotiations and meet with Ari and Jamie about that, which would be,
Christie.
or I'm sorry, and Christie. So that would be most appropriate to do an executive session. So before we entertain a motion of that, I'll dismiss everybody else. I don't suspect that there's going to be any decisions. It's really just a matter of getting a pulse of the select board prior to going into negotiations and kind of the logistics around that. So there won't also likely be much to report other than to charge everybody with carry on. So Shayna, you're welcome to head out, and we'll provide you with notes on when we exited executive session.
Okay, so I can just note 6:54 entrance executive section.
Yeah, why don't you make it like 6:56 and we'll make a motion. Orca is also, yeah, you'll welcome to stop recording, this will be in session.
Also, I'm not sorry if I'm not early, I came here at 5, and was there a hearing before?
Oh, there was, yeah, sorry.
They said it happened to be at 6, I'm sorry about that.
No, not a problem. We were, Orca was signed in to the Zoom anyway, so,
Sounds good, thank you.
you likely, it was all captured one way or the other. So with all of that, would somebody like to, make a motion, for 1 VSA 315 1B, relative to labor negotiations and agreements with the staff.
Second.
I'd like to amend that by inviting Kari into the executive session. So everybody in favor of that amendment?
As
Great,
amended, so
thanks. All in favor? Aye,
All right.
none opposed. We'll stop recording.